All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're diving into a really powerful article by the writer Alabowotu, and it asks a question that's on a lot of people's minds, especially if you're in Nigeria. And that question is this: what and concern Nigerians with AI in 2025? Now, for those who might not know, that's Nigerian Pigeon, and it's a pretty provocative question. It basically means, what's our business with AI? Or, more to the point, why should we even care? So yeah, that's exactly what we're going to dig into today. Okay, so before we get too deep, let's just cover the basics. What exactly is AI, anyway? What in the AI, Seth? So, the author pulls a pretty straightforward definition from Gemini, and it's simple enough, right? AI is all about making machines that can do things humans normally do. Learning, solving problems, making decisions. Simple as that. And when you first hear that, you think, wow, that sounds perfect for a place like Nigeria. I mean, think about it. With all the complex challenges, geopolitical, economic, you name it, a tool that helps with problem solving and decision making, that seems like an absolute no-brainer. But here's the thing. This isn't some sci-fi, far-off future stuff. The whole AI explosion has been ridiculously fast. It really kicked off with a key paper from Google researchers back in 2017. Then, boom, 2022, ChatGPT just blows the doors wide open for everybody. And today, the author calls it madness, and honestly, that feels right. It's almost impossible to keep up. And that crazy pace, that madness, brings us right back to our main question. But this time, it's personal. What can concern me? Like, why should you, the average person, actually care about any of this stuff? Well, here's why. The author argues that this technology it's too powerful to let a handful of people decide how it's going to work for everyone else, especially when most of those people are outside of Nigeria. So this is really a call to action. We all have to get involved because AI isn't just something happening out there. It's happening to us. And to make this idea really, really clear, the author shares a personal story. And it's a story about AI bias that, honestly, it really hits home. So here's how it started. It was a simple, practical task, right? The author wanted to reach out to a popular footballer who has Nigerian heritage. And they figured, hey, I'll use AI to help me write the message. But then, something really weird happened. The AI tools just refused, flat out. They wouldn't complete the request. And that right there is a huge red flag. A clear sign that there's some kind of bias baked right into the system itself. So, obviously, this was pretty bothering. But the author didn't just give up. They decided, okay, let me try a different AI. So they turned to another model, one from a company called Anthropic. You've probably heard of it. It's called Claude. And this is where a totally different problem popped up. It wasn't about bias this time. It was about pure access. See, back then, Claude just wasn't available in Nigeria. You couldn't use it. So think about that. First, a bias barrier, and then a literal geographic wall. And that whole experience really gets to the core of the issue, doesn't it? These AI systems, they're not neutral tools, not at all. They're products. And just like any product, they reflect the people who made them, their values, their blind spots, their priorities. So this all forces us to ask a really fundamental question. Are we just going to sit back and let this technology happen to us, shaped by people and forces outside of Nigeria? Or are we going to take an active role in actually building it and guiding how it's used? Because that personal story, it's really just one small symptom of a much, much bigger problem at the national level. And that's what the author calls the Nigerian AI gap. And when you look at the data, man, it paints a really stark picture. I mean, look at this. On one side, you've got countries like the US just pouring billions and billions of dollars into AI. And then you've got Nigeria. The gap isn't just big, it's absolutely enormous. So just how enormous are we talking? Well, the research points to this number: less than 1%. Think about that. Less than 1% of all the money being invested in AI around the world is being spent in Nigeria. And that tiny percentage means that Nigeria is on the verge of being completely left out of an economic sector that's projected to be worth, get this, $5 trillion. The stakes here are they're astronomical. So you have to ask, why is the gap so big? Well, it boils down to some really fundamental on-the-ground challenges. We're talking about things like unreliable internet access, the insane amount of energy you need to train and run these models, not having a big recognized tech hub, and even just simple stuff like the difficulty of paying for these AI products from overseas. So, when you add all of that up, it leads to one final, really critical question. Can Nigeria truly afford to just sit on the sidelines for this revolution? And the author lands a really powerful punch with this quote here: Naija no day carry last. It's a super popular saying, right? It's a statement of pride. It means Nigerians, we don't come in last place. But the author completely flips it on its head and suggests that, when it comes to the AI race, that's starting to feel less like a reality and more like, well, just an empty slogan. And that's really the final question that the article leaves us with. When you think about everything, the bias, the lack of access, that huge investment gap, and just the sheer scale of what's at stake, can we really afford to fall behind? Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.